Have you ever felt like the more clearly you see the world, the harder it becomes to connect with those around you? That the deeper your understanding grows, the more it feels like you're speaking a language no one else understands. It's a quiet, aching paradox, and those who carry this inner clarity often walk through life not with celebration, but with silence. They see more, they feel more. They notice the subtle patterns, the contradictions in society, the emotional undercurrents in a conversation, and yet, because they do, they are often dismissed, ignored, or misunderstood, not because they're wrong, but because they're ahead. The philosopher Alan Watts once observed that true awareness is not about accumulating knowledge, but about dissolving illusions. It's about seeing life as it is, not as we wish it to be. But herein lies the tragedy. Most people live surrounded by layers of illusion that feel safe, familiar, and comforting. So when someone walks in with eyes wide open, questioning those illusions or gently pointing out what lies behind the curtain, they are not welcomed. They are seen as disruptive, confusing, or even threatening. Why? Because awareness disrupts the dream. And most of society is dreaming. When you begin to wake up to your own conditioning, when you stop chasing the approval of others and start seeking truth, your vibration shifts. You no longer laugh at the same shallow jokes. You no longer find comfort in gossip. You no longer accept the masks people wear as their true identity. You stop pretending, and that alone makes others uncomfortable. It's not that the aware person chooses isolation. It's that isolation often chooses them, not out of bitterness, but as a side effect of seeing too deeply. It's like standing in a crowded room and suddenly realizing the music is out of tune. You try to tell others, but they shrug and say, "What are you talking about? This is the best song ever." So eventually, you stop explaining. You learn to be silent. You learn to observe. You learn that not everyone is ready to hear the truth, and that's okay. But it still hurts, because deep down, every human being longs to be seen, to be understood, to be met at the level of their soul. And when that doesn't happen, when your thoughts are met with blank stares or polite nods, you begin to question yourself. Am I crazy for seeing this? Why can't I just be normal like everyone else? Let me reassure you, you are not crazy. You are not broken. You are simply awake in a world that is still sleeping. Watts often compared the journey of awareness to the awakening of a butterfly. Imagine a caterpillar living among others, crawling from leaf to leaf, accepting that this is life. But one day, it enters a cocoon, and what emerges later no longer fits in the old world. The butterfly has wings now. It sees from above. It understands a perspective the others cannot. Try as it might, it can't crawl again. And the caterpillars around it don't understand this change. They may even mock it. But the butterfly knows. It knows that transformation comes with solitude. This is what happens when you become aware. You grow wings others cannot see. You rise above old patterns, limiting beliefs, toxic environments, and social illusions. You don't need to shout about it. You simply are. And that alone can be enough to cause misunderstanding. People will project onto you. They'll label you too intense, too quiet, too different. But those labels are not yours to carry. They're a reflection of others' discomfort with their own limits. So if you're watching this and you've ever felt like your insight has made you invisible, like your depth has made others turn away, let me remind you, there are others like you. Quiet observers, soulful thinkers, truth seekers. And when you find them, you'll feel an instant recognition, like coming home. Until then, honor your awareness. Protect it, cherish it. Because in a world built on illusion, your clarity is a rare and beautiful gift. Now, I'd love to hear from you. If you've ever felt misunderstood because of your awareness, your depth, or your ability to see beyond appearances, share a brief comment below. Here's a suggestion. Sometimes I feel like I see things others don't, and it makes me feel alone. But I know I'm not the only one. Let me know you're out there. You're not walking this path alone. What it means to be truly aware. To understand why the most aware are often misunderstood, we first need to explore what awareness truly means. Most people associate awareness with intelligence or education. They believe that being aware means knowing a lot of facts, reading philosophical books, or being able to win arguments. But awareness, in its purest form, is not about how much you know. It's about how deeply you see. Alan Watts often emphasized that awareness is not something to be achieved through effort, but something to be realized by removing the filters that distort our perception. Imagine wearing colored glasses your whole life. You would believe the world is tinted that color. Now imagine someone taking off those glasses and seeing the world as it really is. That is awareness. It is the unfiltered perception of reality, without the noise of ego, judgment, or conditioning. But that kind of seeing changes everything. When you become aware, you begin to notice the subtle dynamics of life. You hear not just the words people say, but the emotions behind them. You begin to perceive the masks people wear, the roles they play, the tension between who they are and who they pretend to be. You notice how society rewards conformity and punishes authenticity. You realize that many people aren't living lives they chose, but lives that were programmed into them. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. This is why the truly aware often feel like they're out of place. They are walking in a world where most are asleep, repeating patterns, chasing illusions, and calling it life. Awareness is like a flashlight in a dark room. It illuminates everything, both the beauty and the pain. You begin to see the unconscious behaviors in others. You recognize the fear behind aggression, the insecurity behind arrogance, the emptiness behind the endless chase for status or money. You begin to question everything you once believed was true, and that makes you different, not superior, not better, just different. You start choosing silence over gossip, authenticity over performance, and depth over popularity. You are no longer impressed by surface-level success. You stop needing to prove anything. You stop trying to win arguments. You let go of the need to be liked by everyone. Your values change. Your pace slows down. And while this internal transformation is beautiful, it often creates a sense of disconnection, because when you shift, your energy no longer matches the energy of those around you. Have you ever tried to explain a moment of deep realization to someone, only to be met with confusion or indifference? It's not because you're speaking nonsense. It's because the depth of your perception no longer fits into the shallow conversations many are used to. People might say you're too intense, too sensitive, or too serious. They might joke that you think too much. But what they're really saying is, I don't see what you see, and it makes me uncomfortable. But awareness is not about making others comfortable. It's about seeing clearly. And once you begin to see clearly, you begin to live differently. Alan Watts once said, "The more a thing tends to be permanent, the more it tends to be lifeless." Awareness brings you into the present moment, where everything is alive and in constant motion. You become aware of your breath, the sounds around you, the sensations in your body, the rise and fall of emotions. You are no longer lost in past regrets or future anxieties. You are here, now. But again, this way of living can make you seem strange to others. You're not obsessed with climbing ladders or chasing trends. You find beauty in simplicity. You are moved by things others overlook. A child's laugh, a tree swaying in the wind, the quiet between notes in a song. You begin to live in rhythm with life, not against it. And so, you become misunderstood. Because in a world rushing toward distraction, your stillness looks like apathy. In a world addicted to noise, your silence feels unsettling. In a world chasing validation, your self-containment seems arrogant. But it is not arrogance. It is clarity. If you've ever felt this shift, this awakening of your perception, I invite you to honor it. Do not doubt it. Do not shrink from it. Awareness is not a burden. It is a gift. A quiet, powerful gift that connects you to the truth of existence. Let me know in the comments if this resonates with you. How has your awareness changed the way you see the world? We are not alone in this. Even if we walk quietly, we walk together. Why awareness breeds misunderstanding? As we move deeper into the path of awareness, one of the most painful realizations is this: the more you understand, the less understood you feel. This isn't because your thoughts are incoherent or your ideas too complex. It's because awareness shifts your frequency. It changes the lens through which you view reality. And when that lens no longer matches the one most people are using, communication begins to break down. Awareness isn't just about observing the world. It's about piercing through illusions. You see the unconscious patterns that drive people's behavior. You hear the words they don't say. You notice the masks they've worn for so long they've forgotten what lies beneath. And when you try to express what you see, what you feel, what you've realized, it rarely lands the way you hoped. Instead of connection, you're met with confusion. Or worse, defensiveness. People often misunderstand the aware, not because the aware speak in riddles, but because their truths are disruptive. When someone lives in denial, truth feels like an attack. When someone is attached to a comfortable lie, your insight can feel like a threat. You might be called too intense, too idealistic, or even too strange. But none of these labels define you. They are merely the defenses people raise when their worldview is challenged. Alan Watts described this perfectly when he said, "Trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth." The more aware you become, the more you realize that truth can't always be explained in words. Some things must be experienced to be understood. And because most people are still navigating life on the surface, your depth becomes a language they have never learned to speak. Have you ever shared something meaningful, perhaps a dream, a spiritual experience, or a realization about your own behavior, only to be met with blank stares or polite dismissal? That's not because what you said lacked value. It's because the other person wasn't ready to receive it. They were still viewing life through a narrow lens, and your words threatened to widen it too quickly. This is why awareness often walks hand in hand with loneliness. Not because you reject others, but because you begin to crave depth over distraction, truth over comfort, presence over performance. And as you change, your circle may shrink. Not because you're isolating yourself, but because resonance becomes your compass. You stop needing to explain your every choice. You stop seeking validation from those who don't understand your journey. You begin to recognize that being misunderstood is not a failure. It is a sign of growth. It means you are no longer trying to fit into a world that doesn't reflect your inner truth. And while this can feel heavy at times, it's also incredibly liberating. Because in the silence that follows misunderstanding, something sacred begins to emerge. You learn to trust yourself. You begin to find comfort in your own presence. You stop diluting your essence to make others feel comfortable. You become the safe space you've been searching for. It's important to remember that you are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to be true to yourself. And the truth is not always popular. It doesn't always make people comfortable, but it sets you free. Alan Watts reminded us that the menu is not the meal. Words, beliefs, and appearances are just representations. Awareness, on the other hand, is the direct experience. And when you live from that place of direct knowing, the world may look at you strangely, but you begin to see clearly. You begin to live fully. And even if no one else understands your path, you know in your heart that you are walking in alignment. So when misunderstanding arises, take a breath, smile gently. Not every soul is meant to walk beside you. Some are still waking up. Some are not ready. And that's okay. The journey of awareness is not about convincing others to see what you see. It's about honoring what you see, even when no one else does. Now I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever been misunderstood simply because you spoke your truth or saw through something others didn't? Leave a brief comment below and share your experience. Here's a suggestion if you're not sure what to write. I've been misunderstood many times just for being honest and seeing things differently, but I'm learning to trust my awareness. Let's support each other in the quiet strength it takes to keep seeing, even when it sets us apart. The strength of walking alone. There comes a moment on the path of awareness when you realize that solitude is not something to fear, but something to embrace. It no longer feels like punishment. It becomes sanctuary. And that shift marks the beginning of an entirely new way of living, because when you are truly awake, you stop relying on the outer world to reflect your worth. You begin to find strength in your own presence. You begin to see aloneness not as absence, but as fullness. Alan Watts spoke often about the illusion of separateness. He reminded us that in the grand scheme of existence, we are never truly alone. Yet at the human level, the journey of awareness often leads us into solitary spaces, not because we don't need others, but because we need truth more. And truth, by its very nature, often requires silence, distance, and deep reflection. There is a quiet power that emerges when you walk alone. You stop looking over your shoulder to see who is clapping. You stop adjusting yourself to fit into rooms that no longer match your vibration. You no longer feel the need to be understood by everyone. Instead, you learn to be deeply understood by yourself. This inner shift is subtle but profound. You notice when you're around others who speak from ego rather than presence. You recognize when the conversation is surface level, designed to impress rather than to connect. And over time, you begin to crave the kind of solitude that nourishes you, the kind that feels like coming home to yourself. At first, this path can feel lonely, but soon it becomes liberating. When you are alone with your thoughts, your breath, your truth, you begin to meet yourself at a level most people avoid. You confront your patterns, your fears, your inner voices, and you don't run, you stay, you listen, you integrate. That is strength. That is awareness. That is evolution. This kind of solitude doesn't make you cold or distant. Quite the opposite. It softens you. It makes you more compassionate. You stop projecting your needs onto others. You stop expecting them to complete you. You begin to love from a place of fullness, not lack. And because of that, your relationships become more genuine, more honest, and more aligned. But the strength of walking alone is not celebrated in the world. Society often pushes the idea that we must always be surrounded, always be busy, always be liked. To walk alone is to walk against the current. And yet, this is where your power resides. Alan Watts once said that you don't look out there for God, something in the sky. You look in you, because the divine, the sacred, the real, it lives inside your awareness. And to access it, you must go inward. You must walk alone into your own soul, into your silence, into your shadows. That is not weakness. That is spiritual bravery. Those who walk alone are often the ones who carry the deepest wisdom. They are the watchers, the listeners, the feelers. They don't speak to fill silence. They speak to awaken. And often their words are ignored because they are too honest, too raw, too real. But still, they walk. Not because it is easy, but because it is right. If you are in a season of solitude, know this: you are not broken. You are in a sacred process of realignment. You are being called inward so that you may rise outward with greater clarity. The cocoon is not the end. It is the beginning of flight. Solitude builds inner infrastructure. It prepares your spirit for the weight of your own truth. And when the time is right, you will connect with others who see as you see, feel as you feel, live as you live. But until then, honor the path. Protect your peace. Let silence be your teacher. You are not walking alone because you are unworthy. You are walking alone because your soul chose depth. And depth requires space. It requires listening. It requires courage. So take this moment to thank yourself for choosing truth over popularity, for choosing alignment over approval, for choosing solitude over noise. And if you've ever felt the strength of walking alone, I invite you to leave a brief comment below. Just something simple, something real. Here's a suggestion you can copy and paste. I'm learning to walk alone with peace, trusting that solitude is part of my growth. Your words may resonate with someone else who needs to hear them today. Final reflections and the power of inner truth. As we come to the end of this journey, there is one truth that must be spoken clearly. Awareness is not a prize to be won. It is not a badge to show off. It is a quiet, inward knowing that transforms everything you touch. Not because you seek to change others, but because you yourself have changed. And that change, though often misunderstood by the world, is the foundation of authentic living. When you become more aware, you begin to live in alignment with your inner compass. You stop measuring your worth by external standards. You stop chasing after things that once seemed important but now feel hollow. You begin to ask different questions. You stop wondering, how do I fit in? And begin asking, what is true for me? That shift, though invisible to many, is everything. It marks the point where you stop living on autopilot and start living awake. Alan Watts often reminded us that the more we try to grasp for meaning, the more it slips through our fingers. Awareness isn't about finding the ultimate answer. It's about being present with the questions. It's about standing in the unknown with open eyes and a quiet heart. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to be willing to see, really see, what's in front of you, within you, and beyond you. That kind of presence is rare in a world addicted to distraction. Most people are looking for the next escape, the next validation, the next thing to numb the discomfort of simply being with themselves. But the aware person turns toward the discomfort, not to suffer, but to understand. They sit with their emotions. They examine their thoughts. They ask, what is this trying to teach me? Rather than, how fast can I run from this? This shift is subtle, but it is powerful. It is revolutionary. And yet, with this depth comes misunderstanding. People may label you as distant when you are simply reflective. They may call you overly sensitive when you are simply attuned. They may see your calm as weakness, your silence as disinterest, your solitude as sadness. But the wise person does not react. They observe. They choose to stay grounded in their truth rather than defend it at every turn. There's a certain peace that arises when you stop trying to explain yourself to those who aren't ready to understand you. Not because you're arrogant, but because you've realized that truth doesn't need to be defended. It only needs to be lived. You begin to realize that your life is your message. How you move, how you speak, how you treat others, how you show up when no one's watching. That is the real expression of your awareness. And slowly, quietly, that way of being begins to ripple outward. Maybe one person notices your stillness and starts to question their own restlessness. Maybe another feels safe in your presence and begins to open up. Maybe your courage to walk alone gives someone else permission to stop pretending. You may never know the full impact of your awareness, but trust that it matters. It always matters. Watts once said, "You are an aperture through which the universe is looking at and exploring itself." That means your awareness is not separate from life. It is life, seeing itself, feeling itself, understanding itself. You are not an outsider. You are a mirror, a vessel, a witness to something far more profound than words can capture. So hold your awareness with reverence. Don't rush to explain it. Don't shrink it to fit into someone else's frame. Live it, embody it, trust it, and know that being misunderstood is not a failure. It is a reflection of your growth. The deeper you go, the fewer will follow, but the clearer the path becomes. If this message has spoken to something deep within you, I invite you to take a moment and reflect. Let this not be just another video. Let it be a pause, a turning point, a reminder that your awareness is not a burden. It is a gift, a light in the dark, a compass in a chaotic world. And if you feel called, leave a comment below. Something from the heart. Here's a simple sentence you can use if you'd like. I may be misunderstood, but I choose to honor the truth I carry within me. Thank you for watching, listening, and walking this path. You are not alone. You are part of something vast, beautiful, and awakening.